Okay, time for business news now with Kate Moody. Hello, Kate.
Hi, Rochelle.
Good to see you. Now, you're starting with a look at the economic consequences of those floods that are currently sweeping Paris.
Yeah, exactly, because businesses of all kinds really are being forced to shut down, and we just don't know quite how high the cost will go. Now, tourism, of course, is one of the most important industries in the Paris region. We are already seeing the impact there. The bateaux mouches, which are those tourist boats that go up and down the Seine, they've been grounded for several days. That could cost an estimated €250,000 each day for that particular industry, which has already been suffering since the November terrorist attacks. The boats that transport goods are also being affected. Some 20,000 tons of merchandise flow along the Seine each day. Those have all been grounded for the time being. Now, museums along the river have also been closed. The Louvre alone welcomes an average 15,000 visitors per day. Many chateaux of the Loire region have also been forced to close their doors. Shops, of course, also facing damage to their merchandise, their stock. Farmers are seeing their crops drowned. We don't have any firm estimates yet of what that final price tag will be. But given the number and the variety of people and sectors that are being affected, it could prove to be considerable. We might be getting some numbers in the coming days, Rochelle.
Okay, well, I do think that bill will be very costly. Kate, how are the markets looking this Friday?
Well, Asian trade going mostly higher. The Nikkei was weighed down ever so slightly by a stronger yen, which tends to be a bad sign for Japanese exporters. You can see it did rally a little bit to close up about half a percentage point. Chinese markets recovering after new data showed that manufacturing had slowed slightly for the month of May. Now, oil prices have turned slightly upwards. International Brent is trading just above $50 per barrel. Those oil markets have largely shrugged off OPEC's decision at the meeting in Vienna on Thursday not to regulate supply. That decision means that OPEC's 13 members will continue pumping crude without any formal constraints. Some members of that oil production cartel were pressing for common action to freeze production in a bid to push global oil prices higher, but they were unable to reach a decision at that meeting on Thursday.
Okay, next up, Kate, it's at the centre of a massive corruption scandal that's tainted the Brazilian government. Now Brazil's Petrobras has brought in a new chief executive to sort of clean up its image.
That's the hope anyway, and he is a rather familiar face for people at Petrobras. Pedro Parente served as chairman of Petrobras until 2003. Now, since he stepped down, the state oil giant has been mired in corruption and debt. As he took office on Thursday, he said he wants independence from the government to set fuel prices and more leeway for international investors to get involved. Parente said he hopes his long-standing knowledge of the company will help put it back on the right path. Take a listen.
Petrobras was a victim of an organized gang to obtain the most exclusive, dishonest, unethical, and criminal objectives. Crimes which were carried out by people using their positions for their own personal gain and power. A minuscule minority of employees and executives disgraced this immense majority of collaborators and retired employees who contributed to the greatness of this company.
Okay, Kate, let's stay in the region. Argentina's manufacturers are still struggling despite pro-business reforms by the president.
Yeah, Mauricio Macri's center-right administration took office in December, and he immediately took steps to try and open up the economy and try to boost business. Now, 6 months on, those reforms haven't yet had the impact that many of his supporters had hoped for. Julia Seeger and Alexander Alcott explain.
Ticking off a long-held wish list of Argentina's manufacturers. Since Mauricio Macri took office in December, he's lifted tough capital controls, eased import restrictions, and freed up access to US dollars. But despite all these efforts, his policies have not yet led to recovery in manufacturing.
We were selling around 28,000 pairs of shoes per month, and then in October last year it suddenly dropped to 18,000. We thought it would only last a few months, but the situation still hasn't changed.
The shoemaker in Buenos Aires is not alone. Industrial output contracted a sharper than expected 6.7% in April from a year earlier. But at least manufacturers say they can finally import what they need. Under Macri's predecessor, Cristina Fernandez, quotas hampered the import of key components and disrupted factory production lines. Business owners want to believe things will be better in the near future.
It's necessary to recover many years of investment, but this process clearly has begun. And we believe that the second semester will give very clear evidence of this reactivation going into 2017, with industry working in full.
The steep recession in Argentina's top trading partner, Brazil, is also adding to the economic woes at home. Boosting factory output and turning around Argentina's economy are key to Macri's political fortunes.
OK, thanks very much, Kate. That was Kate Moody there with the Business Roundup.